Strange dimension. You apparently have to go forward in time. That's interesting, isn't it? Well, let's set that aside. So, so the dimension is actually a dimension that I think you brought up. The difference between what you might call a worldly opportunity and a spiritual opportunity. If I'm not mistaken, you touched on that. Am I correct?
I'm not sure.
Well, you were talking about that we have a political situation. You want to make a difference in the political situation. And it's a challenge, but it's still an opportunity to make a good difference. It's a challenge in a worldly sense, but we have an opportunity in a worldly sense, right? And then there's another part too, which is that we also have an opportunity in a spiritual sense. And I think it's useful to divide these up into two dimensions, or to set these apart from each other, even though we also acknowledge it's just one world in the end, right? Just one world, really. We're artificially dividing it up into these dimensions. They're not really separate. It's just one world, actually. But for the sake of talking about it, maybe we'll divide it up a little bit. So you have the opportunity. So let's say that something difficult is happening in the political situation. That difficulty does present a certain kind of opportunity in terms of the world situation. Yes? We have that opportunity. So you have to respond to the situation you're actually in. This is a fundamental principle of success in life. Respond to the situation you're actually in, not a different one. If you're responding to a different one, things aren't going to go as well. So we're in a certain situation, respond to that situation in order to try to get a certain result in terms of the world situation. Yes, that's a worldly dimension. That's a worldly kind of opportunity. Then there's another kind of opportunity, which would be the spiritual opportunity. That being, allow the situation to overcome, to purify, to break up, to reveal the nature of my sense of self. Yes? So we can try to use the situation, and within the situation, try to get the situation to be a certain way. We can also move through situations with the hope that those situations will purify us. Yes? Will purify us of suffering. Will purify us of delusion. Will purify us of selfishness. And we could call that a spiritual kind of opportunity. Okay? Now, once again, these are parts of one world. As you, in order to accurately respond to a situation, you have to acknowledge the situation for what it is. In order to do that, well, a very helpful thing in order to do that is to set aside our ways of interpreting things. Our stuck views on things are actually making our understanding of the situation less accurate. Because it's less accurate, we're less effective. And a lot of the time, this is something that we see constantly once we really start practicing. We start seeing this everywhere, that it's extremely common that in the objective world, we are choosing a behavior because we perceive it as a solution to a problem, when in fact, that very behavior is the source of the problem. We deeply believe that the thing we're doing is solving the problem, when actually the thing we're doing, intended to be the solution, is the source of the problem. And just because we intended it to be the solution doesn't make it so. It still causes the problem, despite our best intentions. This happens a lot. We can start to see this everywhere in our own behavior and other people's behavior in the world situation. We can see that. If we can set aside our preconceived notions, opinions, assumptions, preferences, then we're in a better position to see when that's happening. Because we can see that's happening more accurately. Well, I'll break that up one more step. Because we don't identify with our thoughts, beliefs, assumptions, preferences, we're less prone to confirmation bias and belief perseverance and these other problematic issues of cognition. Okay? It's the lack of identification that makes it so that these issues are no longer about myself. Because it's not about myself, we no longer have to defend ourselves against the truth. Because we don't defend ourselves against the truth, we can see the truth, because the truth is just there. It's obvious, actually, if we don't consistently try to avoid it. So it's there. Because we see it, we can respond accurately. Therefore, because of spiritual growth, we're better at changing things in the world. Yes? Because we're changing things in the world, because we're successfully making a difference in the world, because we're truly being of service, because we're actually dedicating our lives to making the world a better place and succeeding, yes, we gain a kind of happiness. And spirituality talks about this happiness all the time because it's an essential component to the path. When you gain that happiness, then there's a fundamental shift in your understanding of your own nature. It's so simple, it's very hard to understand. But you just realize, I like that happiness. It's so simple. I like the kind of happiness that comes from love and behaving according to it. That's all. I like it. That's it. That's all. I mean, that's the whole realization. I like that. I actually like it better than sensual pleasure. I actually like it better than survival. And that means that I'm not what I thought I was. And because I realize I'm not what I thought I was, I can become free of what I thought I was, which is spirituality. So because of service, accurate, effective service in the world, we gain a happiness that leads to transcendence. Because of transcendence, we gain an accurate understanding of things that leads to service, to effective service. Yes? So these work together. But none of that works without the third dimension. Yes? Which is just keep going. Just don't stop because there's a challenge. I just described all kinds of different challenges that we have to learn to navigate. And yet, regardless of up and down, yes, you have to go forward. And that's it. And it's I mean, for me in my path, it gets to the point where my mind wants so much to have an explanation for why I would go forward. But there isn't, that I know of, any explanation. You just go forward. And then every time it turns out to be the right direction. And only afterwards you look back and go, oh yeah, again, it's the right direction again. Wow. Huh. You know? So it's so strange. It's a big downhill. It's scary. Just go for it. Oh, that was the right direction. Big uphill. Never want to do that. Just go for it. Ah, wow. It worked again and again and again and again. Without that perseverance, without that dedication and effort, then the rest of it just doesn't weave itself together. Doesn't disentangle itself, depending on how you want to use the metaphor. So, is that a helpful overview of the point? Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And my report
Yeah.
is that recently, very recently, I was given some information that could have really thrown me off, and I was really surprised and grateful that it didn't throw me off at all.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, okay, now we're doing this, you know? And it came over after years of retraining the thought patterns.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
so it's a matter of practice.
Yes, it's a matter of practice.
So you're practicing meditation, you're practicing whatever, you know, your thoughts, so that something that could stimulate anxiety all of a sudden stimulates creativity.
Yes, that's right.
It's like, oh,
That's
well, I've already half prepared for that, so
yes.
let's do that.
Right.
The only one I just wanted to question this idea of the metaphor, perhaps, of going forward.
Yeah.
Because maybe it's not a straight path.
Sure.
So.
Right. This is a metaphor.
Right, it's just a thought, you know,
Just
the idea that you go uphill, it's okay, go down.
Right, that's all we're saying. It doesn't have to be a straight path. Actually, one of my favorite poems that I ever wrote, not one of my favorite poems, but one of my favorite poems of mine, is again very simple. It's just, I don't remember, I think I remember it. It goes something like this. It's strange that a path through a flat field isn't straight.
Yeah.
So I wrote it about the spiritual path, but I was actually looking at a field with a path through it that people walked. It's a flat field. This was in India, and the path wasn't straight. You're walking from there to here, and it's curving. Strange. Yeah. I'm afraid we have to stop there. Let's get into our service component, how we impact the world. What do we have? How do we integrate this practice into taking care of this beautiful world? Mm-hmm.
Any woman here could talk to me about a meeting I'm having next Saturday, preparing for the Women's March. Whether you go or not is not necessary, but it's to prepare in a group of women to discuss our own issues and how that interacts with the whole of our challenges.
Great. Mm-hmm.
Well, just wanted to add on about the Women's March as well. They were very clear on the event page about it's welcome to everybody. It's not just for women. And there's a lot of build-up happening with it. It seems like it's going to be a very important event for this moment. So if you can't make it, I would definitely encourage you to look at the event and follow up on it and see what comes from it. So someone's described it as, what did they say? They talked about the web of activism that will be spun in its aftermath. So I would just keep your eye out for this. And once again, if you can't make that, the same day in Montpellier, January 21st, there will be an event, the same event, but in Montpellier. Also, tomorrow is a day against denial. It starts at Bernie Sanders' office, and the point will be to encourage the U.S. senators to vote against Trump's cabinet picks. This is happening all over the country. So it's tomorrow from 12 to 1, so at noon. It starts at 1 Church Street, that's Bernie Sanders' office. People will thank Bernie Sanders for his work, and then they'll walk to Senator Leahy's office to encourage him to vote against Trump's picks. That same day, there'll be a 350 Vermont Node meeting. Has anybody been to those before? So would you want to talk briefly about what that is?
I've only been to one so far. I was surprised at the amount of energy that we had. I was expecting about 3 people there. And the Burlington node, we actually had probably over 15 people around the table, and we split up into some different focus areas. So if you come to one of the meetings, in the future, you'll probably be some time where we get together and talk about what we're doing in our groups and how we're making progress. But we'll also have some time in our groups to work on some different areas. And those areas being, for example, policy or working on envisioning new solutions, those sorts of things. So it's a great time to join in because we're just getting started. Did you want to?
What time is it?
It is, so this is every 2 weeks, and I don't know the time, I think 7 o'clock?
Look on their website, 350 Vermont website, because I don't know off the top of my head.
I think it's 7, it's every 2 weeks, and it's on 255 South Champlain Street. That's the office. And one more event is on Thursday, January 12th at the UU Church. There's an event called Mother Up. And this is, Joanna Mace talked about the Great Turning, which, or the Third Revolution, which is this moment where we're stopping the destruction of the world, building new life-sustaining waves of life to shift collective consciousness. And this is aimed at parents who don't feel like they have the time to get involved, but it's working to collaborate with parents and families to get them involved in this movement. And mother being a verb, so it's not just for moms, it's for anyone who is mothering the world and their children. And there will be vegetarian dinner served, a time for reflection, storytelling, and an update on the ongoing actions at Standing Rock. That's Thursday, January 12th from 5:30 to 7:30 at the UU Church on Pearl Street.
And where's the place where the vigils usually happen? Church Street or City Hall Park or something? Is there a place? All kinds of places. Probably the top of Church Street. So let's say it's at the top of Church Street. I'm pretty sure it is.
At the Unitarian Church.
Yeah, right in front of the church on Church Street. On the day of the inauguration, there will be a vigil for the earth. So that will happen at 5 o'clock as it gets dark. Please join if you can.
A few on my list. I saw today from Facebook there's something about creative activism, like using the arts and activism. I think it's on Archibald Street for Black Lives Matter, Friday, I believe. I won't be there. I'll actually be in a single payer conference in New York City next weekend, which I'm excited about. And something that we're planning for January 27th, but if anyone wanted to get involved, I'm really excited about this organizing we're going to be doing. Combining supporting the licensed nursing assistants to form a union at the hospital, but also using that to also build power together for universal healthcare in the future, seeing that we're all impacted by the same system. And it's going to be at a community dinner at a church in Essex, and we're going to be providing a free screening clinic. And I really think that this sort of like community support and activism is what we're going to be needing, something where we are providing direct services that are needed, but then also for transformational change is something that I'm really excited about. So if you're interested in getting involved in that, with supporting either the free screening clinic or the organizing, talking to people, that kind of thing coming up.
It's next Monday, January 16th, 2 to 5 p.m. Black Lives Matter a lot. That's having the middle school to prison and Champaign County police brutality action. I don't think there's a location yet. That's all I can say about that. But I also wanted to ask if you know or anybody else about any transportation to the Women's March in Washington or to the inauguration.
The Peace and Justice Center buses are all filled up. So it doesn't look like there's any option like that.
I think within ourselves we could figure something out. So maybe if people were interested and they wanted to write their names on a list outside, let's do that.
All right, one more. Yes.
I do have a friend who has a seat in car as of a couple of days ago. But I wanted to also mention there's also a Black Lives Matter organizing meeting tomorrow night at 7, which I think is at the, does anyone know the location for sure? Anyway, you could.
I think one of the schools
Yeah.
on kind of near Archibald Street, or in actually in. Yes, H.O.
Wheeler.
Are they calling it H.O. Wheeler?
That's in the neighborhood of Archibald.
Yeah. Integrated Arts Academy, actually, but that's Wheeler. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Very good. Great. All right, very good. Thank you. Well, this is main thing that's exciting to me, actually, or each of those announcements is exciting, but meta excitement is that we have so many announcements. We went from just a few to 10 minutes. So our challenge now is to continue to increase the number of announcements by shortening them. Yes, that's the challenge. And we say them more quickly so that more people can say them. So thank you all for bringing those and bringing yourself to this. It's good to see you. Chanting will be in 10 minutes. And glad to have this community.
I got a question on that.